projects like this happen, and you never know where the support will come from. And I want to encourage other people. There's a lot of things I could say to you on how I got to where I am with nothing, but I just want to stick to the script, and I know my team is telling me to be brief. But there's a sister here from WPFW who let me know that she had a book, an autobiography of John Brown. That's over, how old, John? How old is the book?
It was printed in 1910.
1910. I went to DC Public School, so it's 107 years. Is that right? I went to DC Public School before they did all that little faking stuff. This book right here is 107 years old, and it belonged to
My grandfather, Harry Seaman. And this book has been in my house since I can remember.
You ain't radio. You know how to do it. Put your mouth.
This book has been with me my whole life.
You got cameras too.
Yes, you could say it was kind of like the Bible, but it was always on the shelf. My mother said she wanted to put it in a place that was prominent, that everybody could see it. Wow. But it wasn't until Kimon had this play, and it was just 2 weeks ago, Thanksgiving weekend, I was in New York, and I said, let me get that book down. So I brought it down from the shelf, and I opened up the page, maybe Kimon, and for the first time, I saw my grandfather's inscription. And it said, this book belongs to Harry Seaman, December 1929. And he gives his address, Amsterdam Avenue in the Bronx. And my grandfather was an immigrant. He came to this country in 1910. He was persecuted in Poland, and he followed John Brown very closely. He very deeply admired John Brown. He passed that on to my mother. And when we were children, one of the first memories is that they took us to Harper's Ferry, and they took us to some other places where John Brown frequented, and as we just always heard about John Brown. But I'm very proud and I'm thankful to Kimon for having me rediscover this book.
Thank you, Joan. Joan is on WPFW every morning at 10 a.m., followed by, of course, Business Matters with our host for this evening, him and his lovely co-host, Izam Ali. We're going to use this book as a prop on stage. We're going to leave it up there. But before I do, if it's all right with Joni, I want to, because some of y'all are not going to support our GoFundMe tonight with $25 so we can hit the road. Some of you may not be able to do that, and I understand that, but you can give something. I want to pass this book around the room. I want every single human being in this space to touch this book and pass it back to me, and we'll put it on the stage, because I do believe in energy. And I think if you do that, that would be enough energy for us to move forward, whether or not you got the $25 we need from every one of you. It's just a numerical number that we get a calculation so we can hit the road. So if you would indulge me, every single person, just pass it around. Don't worry, Joan, we're not going to let nobody out the room until we get the book back into our possession. Okay? All right? All right, start in here.
We don't have a lot of money in my family.
Okay. All right, now we're going to start with the show. We have a poet in the house who, again, you never know where support comes from. She sent me a poem. You know how some people say, you doing this show, I got a poem, I wrote a song about it, I want to hear it, here you go. But every now and then, somebody's going to send you something and it's fire. And she didn't know this. I waited till this moment to tell her this. But her poem is so much fire that I'm going to put her in the film. Her and her poem is going in the film. And I'm sorry, tell me your name again, sister. Nubia. I'm sorry, I smoke a lot of legal weed. Nubia. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our first performance tonight. This Nubia. All right, my father said I need an older woman with good credit. How's your credit score? Not too good. Kids on me.
Good evening. Harper's Ferry for John Brown. This was not a boat ride to the afterworld, a 12-day journey into subterranean sunlight, though it felt like that. It was a seed unfolding in sheaths of free thought. I think, therefore I'm free, bursting from the cosmos of your brain. It was nature's clock that told you it was time to run to the end of your dreams. Boots on the ground, a rifle enfolded in a fist, a loyal league following in footfalls of freedom, gathering the momentum of an avalanche, marking the Appalachian Trail, a trail of tears turned to blood, turned to streams flowing into front page news, and a speech that rocked the cradle of the world towards justice. Here is the dividing line of souls drawn in the dirt of a sacred battlefield. Every colored bird gathers in the witness trees where two rivers meet, and the sky is the ceiling of a temple.
One more time for us. I feel a little Love Jones thing right there. Shalal is operating one of the few surviving poet venues in the city. Not only is it a poet venue in the city, it's named after a poet. Who's it named after? What room are we in? You think that's an accident? All right. Now coming to the stage is Baltimore's own Femi the Dry Fish. He has a piece named after, and Shalal just had Help Us In Project in here doing a political trivia. Who was the first person to die in the American Revolution?
Crispus Attucks.
That's high IQ. Trump would have got that wrong.
Check. Greetings, everybody. How you feeling this evening? That's awesome. Before I begin this piece, do me a favor. Turn to somebody next to you. Look at them in the eyes. Smile if you brushed this morning. That's good. That's good. If you did, I totally understand. I want you to say I appreciate you. Cool. I like that. I like to set the tone in a certain way. You know, we start off smiling. You know, once I stage dive and change the mood, but let's smile. My name is Femi the Dry Fish, hailing from Baltimore City. I'm about to perform for you. Actually goes to a rock song that I'm in the studio recording currently, but I'm doing it a cappella, so it's not going to be a lot of guitars. But I want you to imagine guitars and drums and bass and me in like a leopard skin outfit.
That won't be in the movie.
Just trying to go. I thought we could do that. Piece called Crispus Attucks.
Will heaven be segregated by the racially affiliated? Beyond the pearly gated, my soul be discriminated. So much hatred against colored privileges, you shouldn't have to ask permission just to simply live. But then again, people die every day for a living, while others take your life for a joke, yo, no kidding. Got used by Lincoln, preserved the Union during Civil War, while kings were murdered, getting civil rights for all. The system has always declared war on the poor. Divided we fall, hopeless pawns on a chessboard. United being mutiny, throw the captain overboard. The first to take a bullet, Revolutionary War. America wanted freedom, had slaves, people of color. That's irony, because land of the free is just a cover. Minorities and stereotype never really respected. And if you're unarmed, you can still get blasted into bits. What if you were the first to die on front lines? What if you were the first to die on front lines? What if you were the first to die for liberty? Your freedom would still be denied. What if you were the first to die on front lines? Shackles on my feet, chain links on my mind. For years I've been asleep until I lost track of time. I said, shackles on my feet, chain links on my mind. For years I've been asleep until I lost track of time. The truth is not freedom, it's a burden that's still hurting. The difference between jumping ship into a death certain or sailing middle passage labeled savage, traded for tokens. Fast forward to being pulled over, tail light out broken. Then beaten to receive end of gunfire, barrel smoking. Selling Lucy's result in legal strangle, choke holding. Being punched, bashed, kicked, thrashed, then taken for a joyride that leaves your neck and your back broken by Willie Lynch. Because Jim Crow still exists. Blue lives are wolf cries. Shackles, chains, and whips. Standing rock against oil pipelines. Target all Muslim immigrants. Latinos still being profiled. Infested smallpox and blankets. Genocide so many indigenous tribes. What if you were the first to die on front lines? What if you were the first to die on front lines? What if you were the first to die for liberty? Your freedom would still be denied. What if you were the first to die on front lines? One time for your mind.
Sexual chapel. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to incorporate that into the film. I think that there was some levels of entertainment that was going on. Maybe somebody be on, doing a little, because he can't beatbox with that, and damn sure ain't gonna have a guitar. So, but we're gonna work it out. Okay, now come to the stage, and I said this backstage, I guess you would say, but I want to say it to you. We oftentimes do not appreciate the artists we can touch. And we only appreciate the artists we can't touch. There is not an accurate measurement of the artistry by the size of the stage. I'm going to say it again. It's not an accurate measurement of the artistry by the size of the stage. This woman right here deserves to be enjoying the same success as Beyonce's sister. But she ain't Beyonce's sister, so she's at a disadvantage. Especially because we still need a revolution of values, as Martin Luther King would say. Does she have to have a killer video on your 6 corporations that control everything you see here in Reed Station? You have to see a Washington Post article on the front page for you to appreciate her here today? Or do you have to listen with your own ears, feel with your own heart, and think with your own mind and say, I like that. I see the value with that. I support that. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Queer Orange. Sexy. I almost got it right. She's also doing the theme song for this production. She put Langston Hughes' poems to music. Just so you know what this is. So one more time. One more again.
All right. How's everybody doing? Good. I am uber excited and proud to be a part of this production. Please give it up for Kimon. Some of you gotta help me out at the end of this. Is that okay? All right. I don't believe it. It's 1,000 of y'all in here. Let's try it again. I'm gonna need y'all to help me out at the end of this. Is that all right? Yeah. This is all right. So, as he said, these are the beautiful words by the late, great Langston Hughes, and the poem is entitled, Perhaps You Will Remember John Brown. I hope you enjoy it. Perhaps you will remember John Brown, who took his gun, took 21 companions, white and black, went to shoot your way to freedom, where to rivers meet, and the hills of the north and the hills of the south look slow at one another and die. They died, yeah, died for your sake, and perhaps you will remember John Brown, and perhaps you will remember that old man John Brown. Now that you are many years free, and the echo of the Civil War has passed away, and John Brown himself has long been tried as law, hanged by the neck and buried in the ground. Since Harper's Ferry is alive with ghosts today, immortal raiders come again to town, and perhaps you will remember John Brown. Perhaps you will recall John Brown. There you go. Keep going. Don't stop because I'm going to mess up if you do. There you go. Remember John Brown. Yeah. John Brown. Remember John Brown. Remember John Brown.
extra chocolate. Okay, now for the one we've been waiting for, the stage reading. Here's the time to judge the content. All right? I cannot bail out on production, budgets. It's just whether or not you can feel this. And writers, for those of you, the writers in the room, you know we are tweeting on insanity. Because a writer has to sit in the room alone, listen to the voices in his head, try to record those voices, and then convince you that you can hear them too. So that was what we're about to find out. Can you hear the voices in my head? All right? Now, we have, I didn't get bios from everybody. So, reading for Harriet Tubman is Nana Malaya. For some of the single women in the house, she's the mother of Lamar Rucker. If you don't know who Lamar Rucker is, you ain't really paying attention if you're singing. Check out, anybody watching, what is it, Greenleaf? Yeah. Greenleaf? How many of y'all watching Greenleaf? That's his mama. Okay. My first mentor, my John Brown. That's right. My John Brown handed over his office to me. When I didn't have a computer, I didn't have anything, he just saw potential, and he said, come on in, teach you how to write a grant and proposal. And I was like, what is a proposal? Yeah. So my first grant ever written was written by this guy. We didn't get it. So white privilege didn't work that time. Yeah. That's probably because I put my name on it. You put my name on it? That's right. Yeah, you should have said it was for, some bald white children. But they put their hands together for the co-founder of Clearing the Fog, the longest running program on WEAC Radio, Clearing the Fog, every Monday at 11 a.m. and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Kevin Zeese. Reading for John Brown. And my good friend and my neighbor, calling favors. Jack is reading for William Lord Garrison, and if you knew Jack, you would know that actually kind of fits him because he's so peaceful. Somebody breaking Jack's car, and he's like, well, they needed it more than me. That's this dude. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, my brother Jack. Jack, what organization you want to shut up? You do so much. You with DC? You with DC. White dude with a beard, all right with me. All right. And the only dude I know that's blacker than me is in the audience named Carvelis. Where you at, Carvelis? Black man. Right here. The only dude I know blacker than me. All right. The only dude I know blacker than me.
Yes, sir.
Now, the dude that's a second runner-up is reading for Martin Delaney and Frederick Douglass, my brother-in-law, Justin. So I need y'all 4 seats to come up, presentation level. We're going to come up and we're going to get the mics together for you. All right, and now reading narration is my brother from another mother, DC's Baltimore's finest. Excuse me. All right, we knew each other long before we had gray hair. My brother-in-law, D-Chase. D-Chase, you got to say something, bro. You got to say something. Come on and say something. D-Chase is a heavyweight. He's the only dude younger than me and shorter than me that I look up to. D-Chase is.
Hey, DC, how y'all doing? Y'all looking great. Always a pleasure to be in DC. I felt like I grew up in DC, although I was in Baltimore. I had 1 foot in Baltimore, 1 foot in DC, so I kind of got the best of both experiences. But I just appreciate all of you just coming out just to really embrace art and life and to demonstrate to the planet that we still breathe, we still laugh, we still drink water, we still do some real basic fundamental things that show that we are part of the living. So I'm just here as an extension of my brother. I love Pappy Camone. I told Pappy a long time ago, he thought I was joking, Carvelis. I said, when I left Baltimore, I came here to meet a couple people. One was the black man, Carvelis. The other was this brother right here, Pappy Camone Freeman. And what I loved about Pappy when I met him is because I met Pappy raw. I met Pappy when Pappy had just stopped stealing cars. So You know, I met a brother who wasn't refined. Am I lying, brothers? He wasn't refined. So I had the opportunity as a brother and as a friend to watch this brother go through every stage of his development as a man, because we used to party over his house. It wasn't legal. My first, well, that's a whole other conversation. But I'm just glad to be here, participate in this wonderful reading, and look to your brother in Baltimore. You know, there's a story that is missing, and I'll conclude on this note. The question becomes, why don't we know anything about the War of 1812? All right? And one of the reasons we don't know anything about the War of 1812 is because black men and women who freed themselves, in particular, joined forces with the British, and they plundered this space here. That's an actual fact. 1812. And they took Washington, D.C. from this country, capital. And then those same black people joined and began to go. They came up to Patuxent, and then they began to come up to Baltimore. 1814. And there was a man who witnessed that, who actually lived in Georgetown. His name was a guy by the name of Francis Scott Key. And Francis Scott Key, in 1814, was in a place called Fort McHenry. When those free black men and women who fought for their own freedom, all right, fought for their own freedom, went to take that which was, at that point in time, one of the industrial centers of the United States of America, called Baltimore. And the war was so tremendous, and the force that they brought against the United States at that time was so tremendous that Francis Scott Key thought that they had lost Baltimore. So they had lost the governmental center where laws were made, and then they lost the industrial center. And when he woke and he saw that the flag was still there, he was inspired to write, "Oh, say can you see?" So, with that being said, this is the stage in which we find ourselves in now. And most people think that the policies towards black people begin to shift in 1877 after the Compromise of 1877. But they decided to repeal everything that we had fought for in 1865. They repealed it in 10 years. All right? But the truth of the matter is the opinions, in particular, of those who enslaved Africans really started to shift back towards getting us out of America. And so began the development of something that was called the African Colonization Society, and the beginning of Liberia, where those free men and women who once fought more against America was beginning to ship to Nova Scotia, Sierra Leone, Trinidad, and other places in the world. So this brother right here is embarking the spirit of those same ancestors who just wanted one thing. They weren't trying to go against America. They just wanted to be free.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In an unfree world, the best thing you do is to be so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Albert Camus, Frenchman. The book is in the house. Where is the book that's been passed around?
I got it.
All right. Has everyone touched that book?
No.
Okay. Well, time's up. You gotta get it up here. So for those who have not touched the book, then you need to come up here at the end of the production so that we can bless this piece. That means I'm only going to get support from what percentage of this? Everybody that touched the book, raise their hand.
60%.
60%. Okay. Don't worry, it's trickle down economics. Thank you, brother. That was beautiful. Look how he brought it. Like he want to put his fingerprints on the thing. 110 years old, 107 years old. Everyone. Dad doesn't believe in Santa Claus. I believe in John Brown. All right, and we're just going to do this right here. Spread it out a little bit. And I say this in closing. Every film you've seen on John Brown, everything I read on John Brown, from the mainstream perspective, is that he was crazy. What white man in his right mind would sacrifice his life and those of his child and children for a Negro? He must be crazy. John Brown started the Civil War. And if you have not read the Washington Post, who is not known for great reporting all the time, they actually did a great article on him this past Saturday, so I urge you to look at it. I actually learned something in there, so I urge you to look that up. And without any further ado, I give to you Patriotic Treason, narrated by Baltimore's finest, and the actors, well, not one of these are actors, and the rest of them are not. So see if you guys can pick out who the actor is. All right, that's gonna be our Howard Zinn political trivia. Can you help me out with that? Because I don't want to mess up. Shalom, no, I don't do Christmas, so I don't even think I did that on purpose. We good? Okay, here we go.
Enter night, Boston, 1859.
First of all, I deny everything. The two most sacred documents ever written in the English language are the Declaration of Independence and the Bible. I prefer the Declaration. It's a much shorter read.
I'm afraid you have a faulty premise, sir. God authored the Bible, whereas men penned the Declaration. God is gentle and forgiving. Men are full of sin.
Men are full of a lot of things. One must be careful not to confuse translation with interpretation. God met sin with the sword on many occasions.
Non-violence is the single moral path we must take.
With all due respect, it seems your milquetoast abolition has utterly failed.
John Brown and William Lloyd Garrison have a conversation.
I beg your pardon, sir. We freed George Latimer in Boston without violence and instituted personal liberty laws.
Again, translation versus interpretation. It was in fact the show of force that freed him when your numbers surrounded the jail.
But abolitionists are non-violent. You know this, John.
I know that, you know that, but apparently the sheriff didn't know that. Clearly, he was convinced by the greater fear of an assault on the jail and destruction of property that were apparently real to him. Make no mistake, George's master freed him not for any concern of justice or morality. It was the threat of violence.
You, sir, are the reason they claim abolitionists are traitors. Your violent rhetoric will sink this country into chaos, anarchy, despotism.
20 years of struggle. All the petitions, the campaigns, the marches, the rallies, the meetings, the resolutions, the fundraisers, the beatings, the mobs, all the sacrifices that have been dealt away by a few corrupted in Washington. The way to destroy slavery is by a way of principled violence, the same way this country was founded and granted its power.
Are you completely unfettered by the constraints of traditional morality?
You feigned moral indignation when you burned the Constitution.
I was making a plea of moral persuasion. You, sir, will start a war.
Slavery is war. Nat Turner sacrificed as much for his people as anybody who ever wore the uniform of the U.S. Army. Any man in chains will tell you this. There's been a perpetual state of war between good and evil since the Garden of Eden. This country was born out of war and will be reborn out of a holy war in the coming Second American Revolution.
God help us.
No, sir. God helps those who help themselves. So let's praise God and pass the ammunition.
John Brown raises his glass in a toast, and the gentlemen who were party to the debate raise their glasses in salute, with William Lloyd Garrison abstaining before he excuses himself.
Well, if you gentlemen will excuse me, I must attend to my paper in my vain attempts to keep the peace.
And what a fine paper it is.
John Brown is approaching the rear entrance of a modest upstate New York home. He knocks on the door in a coded fashion. He removes his hat immediately upon greeting the occupant.
General Tubman.
Captain Brown?
They embrace in a full-body hug on the doorstep, each teasingly allowing their free hand to confirm the existence of their guns.
Let me take that for you.
Enter into Harriet Tubman's home. John Brown's hands her his hat, coat, and gun. We next see them seated at the kitchen table with guns hanging on a coat rack in the foreground. They have just finished the meal.
General Tubman, I must say you can taste love in your food.
Why, thank you, Captain Brown. I have a ritual when I'm cooking. When I was a child, I got hit in the head by my master's son and started having dizzy spells. Well, my family thought I was going to die. So folks say my aunt put a curse on the man, and he died.
Yes, indeed. The Lord does work in mysterious ways.
I say he do. She put so much ground up glass in his food until he bled out his ass. So I always try to think good thoughts when I'm cooking.
So, no thoughts of the peculiar institution in your kitchen.
Child, I'm just trying not to think of my husband.
Immense laughter. John Brown slaps his leg.
General Tubman, you are a hoot.
Where's you staying, Captain? You know you always welcome here.
Thank you, ma'am, but I have a room with the Quakers.
Quakers. Almost as good as colored. They call themselves friends, and you can trust them every time.
Like a good bloodhound's nose.
So, Captain Brown, now that your belly is full, what can I do for you?
He reaches across the table to replenish his glass of red wine.
May I?
I do believe that Jesus spilled his blood for all of us.
He raises his glass to her and takes a big gulp.
General Tubman, the day of judgment is at hand, and it's time for God's wrath to descend. We are divine instruments ordained to deliver it. I need your help to recruit a few good men.
I feel his hands as well. But Lord knows, men have trouble listening to women folk. Even colored men.
But you are the Moses of your people. They will listen to you.
Only account that my gun on them.
Exterior, night woods. Flash sequence, Moses is leading a small group of reluctant runaways as a conductor on the Underground Railroad.
Moses, I can't go no further. If I leave now, I can make it back to the plantation before sunrise, and the overseers notices I'm gone.
Hush that fool talk now, you hear? This shotgun is for the slave catchers.
She produces a hidden .45 and puts it in his face.
But if you don't put one foot in front of the other and shut your full mouth, I'm going to plant this here seed and leave you right here. You'll be free or die.
All right, we move to an interior shot. The next day in Harriet's home. We return to Harriet Tubman sitting on her kitchen table.
But when they're not on the business end of my gun, not so much. I freed hundreds of slaves, and I could have freed thousands more if only they knew they were slaves.
Surely there are men with enough fire in their bellies to strike a blow against their masters that rob them of both liberty and life.
They call it a peculiar institution for good reason, Captain. Truth is, there are Negroes who would give their lives to put fire out and save the master's house quicker than the master would. And for those who didn't allow their spirits to be broken or bought, it's a tall order for them to have tasted freedom and turn around and risk it again. They've grown accustomed to become too comfortable.
Yes, it must take a mighty strong man or insane general to march back and forth into the bowels of hell time after time.
Harriet smiles and makes an attempt to reach for the wine. But John beats her to it and pours it forward, replenishes his ears. She puts it in her lips but speaks before sipping.
Well, I did tell you that I was hit in the head with a child.
They laugh. She takes a few sips as the candles burn between them before speaking again.
I'm afraid I can't get you the armor you want, but I can try and get you the help you need. I'm sure I can find a few good men who should be willing to take that walk with you. But Captain, look for men who are marching for love, not hate. Hate will evaporate like morning dew in the sun. But if they have a loved one that needs saving, it's a mustard seed of faith and moist fertile ground. Give me until the next full moon. Give me until the next full moon. And then you watch the quilts at the last stop for me to tell you where.
They raise their glasses. Upon finishing his drink, John Brown prepares to leave, and Harriet hands him his things.
General Tubman, I hear tell that there's a theater production of Uncle Tom's Cabin in town. I know you don't read. Perhaps you'd like to see the stage performance as my guest.
I've heard Uncle Tom's Cabin read to me. And I'll tell you, Mrs. Stowe's pen hasn't begun to paint what slavery is, as I have seen it at the far south. I've seen the real thing. I don't want to see it on no stage or in no theater. The work she's doing may help the cause, but you never wound a snake. You gotta kill it.
Exterior. Dave Rockwell. John Brown and his companions arrive at their destination. A stone quarry with an old blind black man sitting on the side of the road. John Brown greets him by placing a coin in his outreach cup. There on a huge rock protruding from the ground seats Frederick Douglass. There on a huge rock protruding from the ground seats Frederick Douglass, who has been quietly reading. He is guarded by Shield Green, a.k.a. Imperial. He puts the book away upon seeing Brown. He rises to greet with him with outstretched arms.
I do believe I found the North Star.
I do believe I'm at the mercy of the murderous terrorists from Kansas.
The men embrace one another with silent slaps on the back and hold each other's arms briefly in silence before disengaging and releasing their grips. They each greet their respective traveling companions.
Emperor, good to see you.
Captain Brown, always a pleasure, sir.
John Henry.
The lion himself.
Ah, until the lions have their own historians.
The tales of the hunt will continue to glorify the hunters.
They laugh. The two men take a seat facing each other. Their companions remain standing as if they are guards on watch. All men are armed. Brown noticed the book Douglass had been reading that he just set aside. He picks it up.
The Unconstitutionality of Slavery by Lysander Spooner. Great book.
He hands the book back to Douglass.
Great man. I've been rereading it as I consider reversing my position on the U.S. Constitution. Perhaps it's not the pro-slavery document I thought it was.
I see the great feud is now complete. Are you no longer prescribing to the Garrisonian philosophy of nonviolence?
We haven't spoken years, and it's been both painful and public.
Douglass, as a graduate of this peculiar institution, you know better than your beloved mentor. Anti-slavery work is not just moral uplift, but part of a war in which combatants best be prepared to fight or die.
I spent my entire childhood only 12 miles from my mother. And it might as well have been an ocean for the number of times I saw her in my life. Slavery, sir, is much more worse than death.
If my moral obligations didn't force me to... Oh, sorry, Frederick.
And if my moral obligations didn't force me to denounce it, I would have never returned to America and stayed on the other side of that ocean.
What if I told you we could end it? I don't think the people of the slave states will even consider the subject of slavery in its true light until some other argument is resorted to other than moral persuasion.
Do you have a silver bullet that I don't know about?
Does moss grow on the north side of a tree?
He produces a map, unfolds it, places it upon the rock centered between them.
The National Armory at Harper's Ferry produces thousands of weapons. It's surrounded by mountains and is guarded by only one man. I know these mountains well. With only 25 good men, I will control the armory, distribute the weapons to slaves that rise up and join us, and invade Africa by conducting plantation raids. When I strike, the bees will begin to swarm. I want you to help prepare the hive for them.
Dear God, I see bleeding Kansas has not quenched your thirst for blood.
My thirst is for justice, sir, and I assure you that this can be done with very little bloodshed. I've liberated 12 slaves this year without even firing a single shot.
Yes, your guerrilla tactics and direct action approach have served you well. But this appears to be a steel trap from which you will never emerge. Your subterranean passway will end here with a fruitless slaughter.
These mountains are here to aid the emancipation of your race. They are full of natural forests, where one good man can defend a force of 100 from attack. They are also full of good hiding places, where a large number of men can be concealed and baffle and elude pursuit for a long time. I've worked these mountains as a surveyor and could take a body of men into them and keep them there in spite of all the efforts of Virginia to dislodge me and drive me out.
I prayed for 20 years, but received no answer until I prayed with my legs. I've often said that the white man's happiness cannot be purchased by a black man's misery. Perhaps you believe that the black man's salvation can be purchased by the white man's sacrifice. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument is needed.
There will be no peace in this land until slavery is done for. CALC is a national institution, but does not help the slave.
Slavery is indeed the disease, and its abolition in every part of the land is essential to the future quiet and security of the country.
Yes, but do you want to end slavery or save the Union? The pact between the slave states and the free states are a sanction for slavery's continuation. The Fugitive Slave Act is an enforcement of this. The war is not only with the South, it is with the Union itself. Many in the North are more concerned with economic development and freedom from competition with black free labor than with liberation of the Negro. The Union will sell you out, Douglas. Every time enough time passes, the history books will even claim the war wasn't even about slavery.
America is indeed false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to be false to the future. This I know. But I, in good faith, must advise caution.
Caution, sir? I'm eternally tired of hearing the word caution. It's nothing but a word of cowardice.
Cowardice? I have a good revolver, a steady hand, and determination to shoot down any man attempting to kidnap.
Then rise up. Strike a blow. Join us. The price of liberty is less than the cost of repression.
My Lord, you are as deeply interested in our cause as though your own soul had been pierced by the iron of slavery. You are the first white man to truly share the same outrage and anger that pounds in my own heart. But my heart is ruled by my mind. And my mind tells me your righteous indignations are sheer madness. You cannot fight madness with more madness.
Madness is bloodless, waiting for justice against all the evidence of history has taught us. You can only fight fist with fist, guns with guns, and blood with blood. I read your book, sir. You said yourself you became a man when you fought the slave breaker, Mr. Covey. I even heard reports of you being assaulted at the podium, only to confront your tormentors in the audience.
And I was almost beaten to death in Indiana for that broken right-hand approach to address my distractions. Look, I'm not judging you or condemning you. I myself appear before you now as a thief and a robber. I stole this body and limbs from my master and ran off with them.
It only takes a spark to light a fire.
Douglas jumped up to plead his case to the heavens above with his back to Brian.
A fire that can consume us all. I see the manifold discouragements of my people everywhere I go. I see them clearly and feel them sadly with an earnest, aching heart. I've long looked for the realizations of the hope of my people. Standing as it were barefoot and treading upon the sharp and flinty rocks of the present, and looking out upon the boundless sea of the future, I have sought in my humble way to penetrate to intervening mists and clouds and perchance to see in the distance of time at which this cruel bondage of my people should somehow end and the long entombed millions rise from their foul grave of slavery and death. But of that time I can know nothing, and you can know nothing, and all is uncertain at this point. I walk by faith, not by sight, and it gives me great pain to tell a friend when he needs you the most, I cannot follow you.
John Brown raises as he speaks.
John Henry, these men are all talk. We need action. Action!
He stares into Douglas's eyes and in turn produces a bag of money and presents it on a rock centered between them. He extends his hand to John Brown, who looks at the hand and then at the man. He accepts the handshake.
I beg of you, Sambo, don't do this.
What happens when one loses a debate but cannot accept the outcome? I've only a short time to live, only one death to die, and I will die fighting for this cause.
Very well. Godspeed. Emperor?
Shield Green looks first at Captain Brown, then at Frederick Douglass. With all due respect, sir, I think I'm going with old man. Frederick Douglass looks to the sky and turns to his companion.
Every slave hunter who meets a bloody death in his infernal business is an argument in favor of the manhood of our race.
Thank you, sir. Shield embraces Douglas before joining the departing group with John Henry tipping his hat to him. Douglas bows his head in acknowledgement and turns his back to pick up the book he was reading, before only to have it thrown to the ground. He returns to his seat, places his face into an open palm, and the other hand on his hip that reveals the good revolver he referenced before on his hip. What you gonna do, Captain?
Snatch these wealthy slaveholders, motivated by profit, off their high horses and force their supporters, motivated purely by racial hatred, into starvation until they slaughter their own damn horses for meat.
John Brown and his companion, John Henry, secretly traveled to Canada, disguised as priests. Their destination is the stronghold of the African secret society that was the real brain trust behind the Underground Railroad. Upon arrival to the 4-story brick building, they encountered a group of capoeira martial artists outside before reaching the entrance. Exterior of the building.
That's a very primitive style of dance, wouldn't you say?
Old, yes, but not primitive, and they're not dancers. They are skilled martial artists trained to fight in hand-to-hand combat.
John Henry takes a second look as the doors open to welcome them inside.
Fascinating.
Interior of the building. The elegant decorum of the interior betrays the discreet exterior. Brass and cherry wood fill the space, and 2 large men are there to escort them upstairs. Music is heard upon reaching the 3rd floor. A voice can be heard reciting a dedication to Christmas addicts. The private bar awaits them, and they are instructed to enjoy their view of the stage until further instructions. One man remains with them as the other disappears. When the performance concludes, the other man returns to escort John Brown alone. Double barn doors open to reveal a majestic fireplace centerpiece an even more elegant room filled with regal ornaments, artifacts, books, and art from all parts of the globe, surrounded by the representation of the highest order of the supreme blackness in all of North America. 13 members of the African Secret Society are all poised majestically in a picturesque silence. The group comprised of 9 women, 9 men, and 4 women, all who are standing with the exception of 1 man who is seated by the fireplace, shields by in all the room. John Brown is momentarily stunned by the omnipotence power of this image before being relieved of his hat and shot beneath his coat. The lone man who was seen seated rises. The lone man who was seated rises and extends his hand.
Captain Brown, we finally meet.
They greet formally without embracing, but their hands linger in a firm lock of mutual respect, with a deep sense of duty and the potential of the historical implications of all the possible variable outcomes of their only encounter. Mark Delaney and John Brown.
Major Delaney, it is truly an honor, sir.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Please, take a seat. Do you care for a drink?
I hear tell that Canadian whiskey is a far cry from the moonshine in Dixie.
Carlin drinks are rolled out, and Delaney pours the first drink, hands it to John Brown. He then pours himself a drink and passes the bottle to complete all the empty glasses in the room. He takes a seat facing John Brown.
But of course, why else would so many of my people risk their lives to flee Dixie to come to Canada? For the weather? So, I understand you have recently met with our chief propaganda officer.
Douglas? A propaganda officer? Is that why he sometimes seems to contradict himself?
Well, when there are guns aimed at you, it is best that you do not run in a straight line, sir. Our struggle is not linear. Our strategy is three-dimensional. Linguistically, astronomically, and eventually militarily. He writes what needs to be written. He says what needs to be said.
I am here to see to it that what needs to be done is done.
Yes, and he has communicated just how eager you are. But tell me, what does he speak of me?
He says that when he wakes up in the morning, he is a man. Everybody says that when Major Delaney wakes up in the morning, he is a black man.
Ah, and what do you think becomes of my unforgivable blackness?
I do not believe it to be a pejorative, sir. What becomes of my sinful whiteness?
There are no sins, only lessons. In fact, I count religion but a childish toy and hold there is no sin but ignorance. I too do not believe that whiteness alone becomes the pejorative. However, if history is indeed prologue, you must forgive my hesitation and perhaps accept my unwillingness to subject the base of my support to white leadership.
White leadership should not require black subjugation.
There are mildly amusing protests from the other group members in response to that statement. Delaney is utterly astonished and rises.
Are you mad? Have you traveled in space? This universe is infinitely black, and yet that ocean of blackness has never subjugated a single white star in our entire galaxy. 9 planets of all different sizes and colors moving freely within their orbits that never collide or interfere with the others. But this world goes against the very laws of nature and physics.
Naya Bingi.
Naya Bingi?
Dr. Delaney flashes his eyes at the speaker, as if he may have spoken recklessly. He returns his attention to Mr. Brown, and slowly returns to his seat, only speaking afterwards.
Nyabingi is a legendary African tribal queen who is said to have possessed a woman to inspire rebellion against colonial authorities. Here, we use the word to refer to the act of calling upon the forces of nature to defeat evil.
I submit to you, sir, that our tornadoes in Kansas are indeed forces of nature.
That may very well be, but we did not call upon you.
He looks at the bottom of his glass and raises his drink as group members refresh it.
We will endorse this campaign and support it, but we will not bleed with you.
I will bleed for you.
The two powerful men lock eyes.
We will graciously accept it as a down payment on the blood that has already been lost.
They rise together.
White leadership, black leadership, any leadership that refuses to go to battle is pit cowardice.
Dr. Delaney walks away in silent protest to that statement.
Blasphemy.
This vile disrespect will not be tolerated.
The entire group becomes restless until Dr. Delaney, while facing the fireplace with his back to John Brown, calmly raises his right and silences the room with restraint. He speaks without turning around.
Captain Brown does not know the man of whom he speaks.
He turns around.
There exists no one in whose veins cowardice flows less freely. I have seen your eyes, and you have seen mine. I have given you my decision from an African perspective.
John Brown's hat and shotgun are returned to him.
We live in this world like the Tower of Babel in a state of confusion.
The church was not built by God, but man was. Hembe, a true believer.
Everyone raises their glasses, including a reluctant John Brown.
Hembe.
Brown exits.
That was the greatest white man I have ever seen. His soul deserves more from us.
We are the gods. This system is the devil. And he is our Jesus Christ. He will be crucified on the cross, and all those that follow him. He will fail in battle. But the ultimate sacrifice of his white blood will bring the apocalypse, and the beast will turn and feed on itself. Then we will join the war. He will be more powerful dead than he ever was alive. And for that, I truly envy him.
Ladies and gentlemen, the patriotic trees in the story of John Brown by Pappy Kamon Freeman.
All right, motherfuckers, this is it. Let me have it. I need to have constructive criticism, but before you hit me with the blows, give my supporting cast and these actors here a round of applause. And let's finish, continue with the tour of the book. Those who have not, please do so now. We have just a few moments left. And I genuinely, third drink, genuinely want your feedback. Your feedback is as important to me as your $25 donated to our tour. So, do we have the chorus with, okay. I'm looking for some help. They donated the room, so I don't have my donated space. LGM, you in the house? I don't even see my intern. Okay. I tell you what, if you have a comment, if you can make your way to the stage, I will give you the microphone. I really want to have it on record. Your honest, constructive criticism and feedback. If you can do that, that is invaluable to us at this point. The biggest thing that I can tell to you is to have value in your voice. It took me to get a literary award for me to have value in my voice. I want you to have value without validation. I want you to have value without validation, okay? I mean, Trump is president. Do you really need to be validated? Like, really? Anybody in this room could do a better job. All right? Anybody in this room. Anybody in this room. All right? But it's not stupid. There's a difference then. It's a difference. It's a difference. I'm going to go to him first, ladies first, but He's the elder, so I go by the age, not the sex. So don't be calling me out. Okay, here we go. And you might recognize this guy. Y'all recognize Night Wolf? He likes to remind us that he was here first.
That's right.
Thank you, brother. Excellent dialogue.
Yes, sir.
My question to you is,